There's copies of our agenda back on the gray cart there if anybody would like one. If you would, please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. And Councilor Rupsis is on for our invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, this evening I blatantly ripped off Mayor Cole's previous concept and asked ChatGPT for some help with the invitation. Phoned it in tonight. As we gather today during this week of Thanksgiving, let us pause to reflect on our many blessings. We give thanks for the beauty of our community, our families, our friends, our neighbors, and the rich tapestry of cultures that makes Billings such a vibrant place to live. We're grateful for the safety, the resources, and the opportunities we share, and for the many ways we can support one another in times of need. And as we enter the holiday season, let us remember the values that unite us: love, compassion, respect, and unity. May we extend kindness to all, honoring our shared humanity and the unique paths that each of us walk. In this wonderful place we call home, we are blessed by the natural beauty that surrounds us. May we continue to care for it and protect this land, nurturing it for future generations, while building a community where everyone feels valued and heard. Finally, as we perform our work this evening, may our decisions be guided by wisdom, empathy, and a commitment to the well-being of all who live in and visit Billings. Thank you.
Mr. GPT did very well there. Denise, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Shaw.
Here.
Gulick.
Here.
Neese.
Present.
Owen.
Here.
Joy.
Present.
Kennedy.
Here.
Aspenlighter.
Here.
Tidswell.
Here.
Boyette.
Yes.
Rupsis. Here. Mayor Cole.
Here. Council, our first order of business are minutes from November 12th, 2024. Are there any comments, changes, or motions? Councilmember Boyette.
Mayor, I wish to approve the minutes for November 12th, 2024 as read.
Thank you very much. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Assenlighter. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll proceed to a vote. If in favor of the motion, which is approval of the minutes from November 12, 2024, please say aye.
Aye.
If opposed, say nay. Motion passes unanimously. We have council courtesy this evening in recognition of our Billings Police Department Citizen Award. Chief.
Mayor, Council, good evening. Diane, could you report to the podium, please? Mayor and Council, I am honored to recognize Diane Casanova, the news director at Color 8, for her actions on September 19th of this year. At approximately 2:45 p.m., officers were sent to the Color 8 parking lot where a subject armed with a knife had come to that location and threatened suicide. Before officers arrived, Diane took it upon herself to sit with the subject and simply listen to see what she could do to help. As officers began to arrive on scene, the subject became frightened and held the knife to her neck and chest and refused to cooperate with officers or drop the knife. Despite officers' best efforts, they were unable to de-escalate the situation. Negotiators were called to the scene to no avail as well. It became clear to the officers on scene that some sort of intervention was needed to prevent the individual from harming themselves or becoming a threat to the public. You won't often hear me say this, Mayor, that a large presence of law enforcement is too much of a good thing at any critical incident. However, in this case, it was. And in fact, it was quite opposite of what was needed. While working on options, it became clear that Diane had developed a rapport with the subject that officers could not match. Instead of stepping aside, Diane worked with our on-scene commanders and explained her earlier conversation and the things that had been requested. Diane relayed that the subject had come to the news agency to tell their story before going through with their plans to commit suicide. Diane was asked if she would put herself in that position again to see if she could negotiate a resolution in exchange for allowing them to tell the story. She did not hesitate and agreed. Diane brought out her equipment, began to communicate with the subject. She was compassionate and offered the subject support and assurances that she would listen. But for that to take place, the subject would have to put the knife down and cooperate with officers. Within minutes of Diane's contact, the subject's demeanor relaxed and they began to cooperate. After 2 hours on scene, the subject put the knife down and was detained without further incidents. As promised, the subject was allowed to tell their story to Diane before being taken to the hospital. Lieutenant Lennox, who nominated Diane for this award, wrote, "While on scene, I watched Diane's true professionalism and her desire to help a fellow citizen in need. This could have easily been breaking news, watching a police standoff with an armed subject. But instead of having a crew standing behind a camera waiting for something to happen, Diane respectfully waited for her turn to help. When given the chance, she jumped at the opportunity. This incident is a true testament to the partnership that Diane has worked to develop with the police department and her dedication to the people of this community. As such, Your Honor, it is my distinct honor and with immense gratitude and admiration to present Diane Casanova with this department's Citizens Award for extraordinary act of compassion and bravery on September 19th. Her effort made a significant difference in this case and serves as a powerful reminder of the positive impact one individual can make on the lives of many. Mayor Diane Casanova. Speak or not?
Diane, you've earned it, the podium and more.
Yeah, well, thank you so much to Chief St. John, Lieutenant Lennox. This, like he mentioned, this is a testament to the partnership and the relationship that we've taken time to build over the last couple of years with the police department. It's certainly not easy, and I just, I got to attribute this award to my parents who are here tonight. Where's Mama? There she is. Oh, hi. Gloria and Alfredo Casanova, they raised me to see people as just people and to recognize when someone is in need and to just hear them out and be a good human being. And that's all I was doing. Wasn't anything special and nothing that our neighbors wouldn't do for other neighbors. That's the power of this community, and I'm really proud to be part of it.
Well, thank you, Diane. On behalf of our community, thank you and congratulations. We appreciate it. Your community appreciates it. And Chief, thank you for your team's open-mindedness to make this. That's the result that we always want. Thank you very much.
Thank you guys
Thanks
so
again.
much.
Thank you, Mayor. I have nothing else.
Very good. Thank you. Council, any other courtesies? Let's see if you can beat that. I don't see so, but anything else? I don't see any. If you're online, council members, always feel free to put up your yellow hand. We'll keep an eye open. We do have two proclamations for this evening. The first one is in recognition of Small Business Saturday and reads as follows. Whereas the city of Billings celebrates our local businesses and the contributions that they make to our local economy and our community. And whereas according to the United States Chamber of Commerce, nearly half of consumers surveyed, 47%, said a key reason that they choose to shop at a small business over a larger retailer is their desire to contribute to their local community and support overall entrepreneurial success. And whereas small businesses make up 99% of all businesses in the United States and are the backbone of our communities and America's economy, employing more than half of our nation's workers and accounting for roughly 40% of our nation's gross domestic product. And whereas in Billings, there are over 8,200 small businesses, many of which are included in the roughly 1,000 members of the Billings Chamber of Commerce who collectively employ approximately 45,000 persons. And whereas Billings is the shopping, dining, entertainment, and services hub for our region with hundreds of local shops, national stores, local ownership, dining establishments, and service providers that offer goods, services, and customer care that is often superior to online shopping. And whereas roughly 68 cents of every dollar spent at a small business in the United States stays in the local economy, in the local community, and every dollar spent locally at a small business generates an additional 48 cents in local economic activity as that business and its employees purchase additional local goods and services. And whereas the City of Billings supports our local businesses that create jobs, boost our local economy, and preserve the culture of our community, now therefore, I, William Cole, Mayor of the City of Billings, do hereby proclaim November 30, 2024 as Small Business Saturday in Billings and urge our residents to support small businesses and merchants in our community on Small Business Saturday and throughout the year. I'll move on. If there was no one here who came specifically to comment on Small Business Saturday proclamation. In our next one is then in recognition of the 16 days of activism against gender violence, and reads as follows. Whereas we as citizens of Billings, Montana recognize the worldwide problem of violence against women occurs everywhere, even here. And whereas gender violence is traumatic to the body, mind, and spirit and can prevent people from being fully active participants at home and in the world. And whereas the health of parents and caregivers is critical to the overall health and well-being of their families and the larger community. And whereas gender violence costs the nation billions of dollars annually in medical expenses, police and court costs, shelters and foster care, sick leave, absenteeism, and non-productivity. And whereas we need only to look at our newspapers or watch a television newscast to see the unfortunate truth that domestic violence has not yet been eliminated here or elsewhere around the world. And whereas we, the citizens of Billings, support efforts of individuals and joint organizations such as the Zonta Club of Billings to raise awareness, stimulate discussion, and advocate for statewide solutions that will curb gender violence. And whereas the citizens of Billings join thousands of others from around the world to assert that the right of women and men to be free of violence is a fundamental human right. Now, therefore, I, William Cole, Mayor of the City of Billings, do hereby proclaim the 16 days between International Day to Eliminate Violence Against Women on November 25th, today, and International Human Rights Day on December 10th as the 16 days of activism against gender violence. And during those 16 days, all Billings citizens are urged to support work to end gender violence and to eliminate the detrimental consequences that gender violence has on the well-being of our city. Thank you for everyone who worked on those proclamations. We will move on to council reports. Council members, do you have any reports from organizations that you serve on behalf of the city? Seeing none, city administrator report. Chris.
Mayor and council, yeah, I've got a little bit of a laundry list here, about a half a dozen things. Most of them are pretty brief, but first, congratulations for those who didn't get to attend. For those who did, we got to see 11 new firefighters sworn in on Friday. So that's exciting for us. And congratulations to them. There will be no weekly report this week. Getting to the agenda itself, 1H, a big thank you to Shields for the $10,000 grant towards the K-9 program. That's our K-9 program in the police department, so thanks to them. Also, 1I think is labeled incorrectly, and that's on me. So we had two things going on with Lockwood Precast. First was that they have made a donation to the city, and as you know, anything over a value of $500 needs to be accepted. I had inadvertently suggested that when it came to talking about a separate issue, which was the reinforced concrete planters to temporarily find a way to prevent what we've seen happen with literally, I think we're well into six figures probably, with 3 accidents over a recent, relatively short period of time of veteran stones being destroyed and hit, that in working with with Lockwood Precast, so that's the vendor, and working with them, we were able to purchase these concrete planters to try to prevent anybody from plowing into that section of the cemetery. My suggestion was let's approach the council to use the contingency fund to pay for that. What I didn't catch here is really it should have been 2 separate items. One, accept the gift. Secondly, it wouldn't come for your approval. Well, your approval wouldn't be for the purchase. Your approval would be to use contingency funds to pay for it. If ultimately you don't want us to use contingency funds, we'll just have to find other funds between the cemetery and the general fund to cover that cost. But like I said, the risk there I think the cost is well worth the risk relative to what we've seen happen. And what happened with the agenda is they ended up on one item. We didn't catch that title change, so that's on me. Next up, number 5, the regular agenda item number 2, that was a zone change request you probably caught, and we will need you to take action on this. The applicant has withdrawn that zone change request. We will need a motion from you, seconded and passed, if that's your inclination to accept that withdrawal. So that formal step needs to happen to remove that. Next up, items 4 and 5 are both tax increment financing grants. And in my memo, I referenced the letter from the Downtown Billings Partnership. Would be attached, and it wasn't attached. I put it in front of you. It's the exact same letter that was attached the last 2 times I think we've had this conversation, but there's that. Monday, which seems will be hard to keep track of probably with a Thanksgiving holiday this week, but Monday, December the 2nd, the city is hosting a breakfast for our local legislators. So in working with our legislators, that was determined to probably be a decent day because people will be home for the Thanksgiving holiday. Once we got past this, harder to catch people, but so at the Doubletree, 7 a.m., we will be hosting a breakfast from 7 to 9. The city, our focus during that breakfast will be on our priorities, primarily public safety, housing, economic development, tax burden, things of that nature. And lastly, there's no ex parte communication that's come late this afternoon. Turn it back over to you, Mayor.
Very good. Thank you, Chris. We'll move on then to public comment on non-public hearing agenda items. So tonight there are no public hearings later, assuming item number 2, that was the zone change, is withdrawn. So that means that the time for public comment on everything on our agenda is now, with one exception I just need to advise you about. I'm advised there's a request to allow public comment by at least one person on the depot TIF request at number 5 at that time, as opposed to up front. It's a really relatively minor change, but it is basically a change to the agenda. So I guess, council, what I would suggest is that we permit that unless there's a request for a vote by any council member, in which case I'll ask for a motion, or if there's a motion, to allow that opportunity for public comment for, let's say, items 4 and 5, since they're both related to the TIF, on the condition that somebody not double dip and comment in both places. So I guess that's my request. We'll just treat that as being an amended a change to our amendment, unless some council member would like to have a vote on that. Is that acceptable? Okay, I'm seeing some nodding heads, so we'll allow public comment on those 2 items at that time, if you would like. But feel free also to comment now on either of those items, just not both. With that, go ahead, Mr. Brooks.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. Dan Brooks with the Billings Chamber at 815 South 27th Street. Just a couple quick thank yous before getting to the agenda item. First, thank you to those who were able to attend our legislative reception last week. That was a great opportunity to meet our newly elected and returning lawmakers that are headed up to Helena to make the proverbial sausage. So thanks for taking that opportunity to come out, meet them. We even got to see the recently elected Speaker of the House. He joined in, so we got to chat with him a little bit. Secondly, thank you, Mayor, for your proclamation on Small Business Saturday. Small businesses are the engine of our prosperity, so we hope that you do get out there and shop small this Saturday. Lastly, I do want to offer our support on agenda item number 3, the Birds TIF application request for security patrols within the district. We are pretty familiar with the area, having done a number of SEPTED security surveys in the district. And while security patrols aren't necessarily definitionally SEPTED. The organizational security of those security patrols goes hand in hand. So I expect that funding of that pilot project will do well to improve security throughout the bird. So encourage your support, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Any other comment on any item on our agenda at this time? If so, please come forward. Just tell us your name and address and keep your comments to 3 minutes, please.
Ready. Josh Worth, 1828 Lone Pine Drive. I spoke to many of you a few weeks ago about the Babcock, and just wanted to thank everybody for having that be part of tonight's agenda. I've been in the arts since I was probably 3 years old, so I completely understand that, that it is typically one of the last things to get funded because it's just an easy, it's an easy thing to set aside because there's typically more pressing matters. But I just, this past week, I went and saw Hadestown at the Alberta Bear, and I don't know if anybody here saw it, but it was hands down the best production I think I've ever seen. So I really look forward to a day that, we have multiple facilities in Billings that can create experiences like that for our community and creating culture. And, like I said, I know it's sometimes hard to say yes to some of those things, but I just encourage everybody and appreciate the opportunity to fund these things now and into the future. So on behalf of myself and the Art House Board, I appreciate your time and efforts tonight.
Very good. Thank you. Any other public comments on any items on our agenda? Okay, we will close the public comment period and move on to item number 1, our consent agenda. Council, are there separations for a separate vote? Councilmember Kennedy?
Mayor and Council, I would move that we separate item I.
1I. And
1I.
very good. And you can do that just unilaterally, so we don't have to have a vote. Well, that is now separated. We'll come back to that. Any other separations? Seeing none, we'll move ahead then. Is there a motion relating to the non-separated items? Councilmember Boyette?
Thank you, Mayor. I move that we approve the consent items except for item 1I.
Very good. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Ripsis. Very good. Any discussion or questions about the non-separated items? Councilmember Boyette.
Again, I just want to thank Shields. They've been a good partner over the last few years, donating quite a bit of stuff. Last time we were here, they were donating bulletproof vests. So this is great. I just want to applaud them.
Very good. Thank you. Any other discussion before we proceed to vote? Okay, the motion is for approval of the non-separated items. If in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. If opposed, nay. Motion passes unanimously. Councilmember, item 1I, donation of a park bench from Lockwood Precast, and as we heard from the city administrator, also the funding issue of whether those dollars should come out of the council contingency is also part of that staff recommendation. So, Councilmember Kenny, it was your separation. Did you want to kick us off there?
Yes, Mayor, I would move we accept the donation of one park bench from the Lockwood Precast to the Parks Department, and I would also ask that we use council contingency to purchase the concrete planters for Mount View Cemetery to protect the veterans section.
Very good. Second by Councilmember Ripsis. Did either of you like to speak to your motion?
Mr. Mayor, I would like to, this is the third time so far that we've had people run through that section very close to Central Avenue. It's been devastating to families as they see the headstones of the veterans that have It's been multiple times, so I think this is well-deserving of the council contingency dollars to go forward and put the planters in.
Very good. Any other session? Councilmember Neese?
Mayor, I'm going to ask of the parliamentarian of this is two separate items. I would like two separate votes.
Procedurally, I don't think there's any reason we can't do that. In fact, we probably are obligated to do that. So I'm thinking that the donation was contingent on their getting the contract. So that we should, is that not the case? So if that's the case, then we should go ahead with whether there's a funding source. And then if there's a funding source, move on to accepting the donation. Our park superintendent, Brandon Schmidt, is going to enlighten us.
Council, Mayor, no, sir, the bench was not contingent upon, I went to them, told them what we wanted, why we wanted it. They, much like many members of the community, were distraught and upset about what happened. They were more than happy, and so after we kind of settled on the planters, they contacted me later and said that we would like to donate a bench.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification. Then why don't we take these in the order
Mayor?
that they appear in the staff report?
Yeah,
Councilmember Neese?
so I'd like to make a substitute motion to accept the donation from Precast for the park bench to the city of Billings.
Very good. Is there a second?
Second.
I heard second from, I saw Councilmember Kennedy. So substitute motion to accept the donation. Any discussion?
Can we call this H1 for our recorder?
It's
sorry,
it's
I-
one
I-
I, so how about
one I1?
one? Sure. Okay. Any discussion on the motion? Motion is for approval of the acceptance of the donation. Okay, we'll proceed to a vote. That is the motion. If in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. If opposed, nay.
Mayor?
I'm
sorry.
Councilmember, I heard no, I heard ayes. Were there any opposed? If so, say nay. I heard no nays. Motion passes unanimously. Councilmember Dees?
Thank you, Mayor. And I'd like to entertain the motion to utilize contingency funds for the 12 planters that's being requested by Parks Department.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Kennedy. Do you want to speak to that motion?
I do, thank you, Mayor. There's no reason why I think the contingency funds can't be used for this. Towards the end of the year, it's a small dollar amount. The only thing, and I've talked to city administrator about this, is these are the type of things that maybe should come to us prior to a business session, during a work session, things like that. These are council funds. We do have the ability to do this, and having this presented to us, as Chris said, it was mistakenly put on and two different items under one, but on a consent item, on a business session, it really should come to us prior to that to get our permission as council to spend our funds. So I do appreciate them identifying the issue, identifying some funds that could be utilized to help resolve the issues of these tombstones getting run over, and hopefully we'll find other ways to prevent that in the future. So thank you.
Very good, thank you. Is there any other discussion on the motion to use contingency funds? If not, I'll proceed to a vote. That is the motion. If in favor, please say aye. Aye. If opposed, say nay. That motion passes unanimously, and that concludes item 1, our consent agenda. Denise, would you please read item number 2 on our regular agenda?
Okay. Public hearing of first reading ordinance for zone change 1058, generally located at 2135 Grand Avenue. Zoning Commission recommends denial.
Very good, thank you. Councilmember Boyette.
Mayor, I move that we approve the applicant's letter of withdrawal of this application.
Councilmember Neese is the second. Is there any discussion or questions for staff? Councilmember Gillick.
It's implied that we're removing from the agenda. Isn't that what the real action that we're supposed to be taking is removing it from the agenda?
My understanding is to accept the withdrawal as opposed to remove it from this agenda, which would potentially allow it to be brought back, right?
Okay, thank you for the
My
clarification.
understanding is the application is being withdrawn. And I'm seeing some nodding heads in the peanut gallery or out there. So that is the motion to permit the withdrawal of the application. Any further questions for staff or discussion? Okay, that's the motion. If in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
If opposed, nay. Motion passes. Bring us to item number 3. Denise, would you read item number 3?
Tax increment financing assistance from the East Billings Urban Renewal District for eBird Safety Pilot Program up to a maximum amount of $30,000. Billings Industrial Renewal District Bird Board recommends approval.
Like Michelle, you're a presenter.
Okay. Okay. Why, so just go ahead. All right. My name is Michelle hello, Mayor and City Council members. I'm Michelle Harkins. I am the Director of the Billings Industrial Revitalization District, also known as the BIRD. And I'm here before you to talk about the safety pilot program that we would like to have in our district. Currently, we have a lot of issues, and our biggest issue that we're having, the most calls that you're seeing in our district, is suspicious activity. And over the last few weeks, we've had 38 of our 54 calls were just suspicious activity. And then another chunk of our calls is the traffic, the fast and alcoholic drivers that are under the influence. Oh, you got it pulled up.
We'll have to scroll through it for you.
That's fine.
We're using it off of the packet material versus a PowerPoint.
Okay.
Give us the nod.
Yeah, we're good. So yeah, no, you might want to mute it to just prepare since last time. Do you remember? There's always background music. There's always. I know. Okay. Oh, are we just going to scroll? Okay. So, yeah, so we want to start this pilot program to help reduce the number of calls we're getting to the police, to free them up to go to much needed calls or other calls in the area more quickly. So we would be working with Sundown Security. They're currently having a program like this on Montana Ave, and they've seen great success from that so far and are working with the police currently. And we want to extend that into our district. This will not take away from what's happening on Montana Ave. They'll have extended services and more days. We currently have a few businesses already in our district taking advantage of Sundown Security. So we are going to work with Sundown and a few of our members. John Armstrong's here. We're going to have a group of people that go out to our members, talk to them about this program, talk to them about the different levels that they can be on, different services they can get, and find what's beneficial to them. And we're going to bring on the members that already work with Sundown and other members in our district, depending how involved they want to be. So, it's just flipping through. So, it doesn't matter. So basically, one of the things we want to change with this is just the stigma that you see around the eBird. A lot of people have this idea, they come down there, it's not going to be safe. They don't want to walk down there at night. They don't want to visit some of the establishments or maybe even bring their business down here to that area. We want to have a feeling of security when people come down there. We want their employees to feel safe. We want them to feel comfortable going to the new breweries that are coming down there, the distilleries that are there. We have people opening up vet clinics that we just got our TIF approved for 2 weeks ago. And we really want people to bring their developments and their businesses and their housing places down there. And just having that extra level of security and that feeling that, you know, if you need someone, you can call, even if it's just a small emergency and someone's going to be there to help. I know in the PowerPoint, and Councilmember Ruffs has brought this up, that there was an increase in some of the calls. And when I talked to Morgan at Sundown, she said that this could have been seasonal. This could have been since the patrol from sundown was there and taking care of these other issues, people were calling in other issues that they're common day issues that now they were getting dealt with. They were noticing other issues in the community, or their security officers were noticing stuff and calling it in. But there's no exact science to like why things go up and down, but just people having that sense of security in the area that they work and live, and encouraging others that, you know, we can do something to help the police so they can go to other calls, or you can move to this area and have that sense and stability that of safety that you're looking for. So what we're proposing is $30,000. We'd be using 15 in the first 3 months to fund this program. It's our portion would be roughly $5,000 a month. And through that first 3 months, we'd be working with our community, bringing people on board to help fund this pilot program. And we would be working closely with Sundown and like editing the program where it works best for us. And then hopefully we would have enough community support and people on board that the other 15,000 would stretch us another 3 to 6 months, and really see, and through that program and through those months, we would really be able to focus on the changes that are happening, any adjustments we need to make, is it working, is it not working, and be able to report back to you guys quarterly and update you on, is this working, is this not working, how do we need to adjust? Because if we want to grow and have a bid there someday like they do downtown, we have to show people the impact of these different collaborations can make, these different departments that we can grow into. So Councilmember Neese asked me about 9 months ago, what are we doing in our district? You know, the DBA has, you know, their officers downtown. What are we doing for safety in our area? So this is what we have come up with.
Very good. Thank you. Questions for Michelle? Councilmember Joy?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I think my question is for Director Friday. Director Friday, does this process of funding to Sundown Security need to go through an RFP or RFQ process in order to put TIF funding towards the Sundown security aspect of it? Thank you.
Councilmember Joy, sorry, and Mayor and Council, in this case, we don't believe so, given that they're doing a match. It's a small amount of funds matching with the private funds for that area, and they're able to do the program with that smaller amount of money. If it was a larger amount of money, we would potentially have to do a whole process based on at least on the city's procurement process.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Kennedy? And then Councilmember Owen?
I have one concern.
Okay.
I always want to see things public safety wise work. Why wouldn't you look at funding a officer for that area?
Yes. So funding an officer, we would have to get a car and 1 to 2 officers, and by doing that, it's over $100,000. And we just don't have the budget for that right now. And they recommended that we get 2 officers, 1 car. We want to see the difference that it can make. Hopefully, we've talked to the DBA a lot about what a bid would look like for us. But, you know, setting that up takes at least 18 months. And this we can start next month, and we can see the results and show our community, because getting a bid, you need a really large chunk of the community buy-in to make it happen. And with this, we can start showing them results immediately and get people to buy in and really see what a bid could do for the community.
Good. So you do have a long-term plan. Thank you.
Very good. Councilmember Owen? And Councilmember Shaw?
Thank you, Mayor. Michelle, I'm having a hard time understanding here why there's tax dollars that are needed to subsidize this. It strikes me that there is evidence that it works. I mean, you have the Montana Avenue project, you have the downtown police officers. I think more eyes on the street works. So I'm unclear as to why your membership isn't willing to just buy in now, why it needs subsidy from tax dollars.
Well, I do believe the downtown gets TIF dollars to help subsidize their program. So we're using basically the same model they're using, but we're using more at first because it's a pilot program and we're just starting it out to get people to see the benefit of it and have the time to do more community outreach and to get it going, just to see if it works. I don't want to have people buy in and see what's going on, and then it just, I don't know. I guess this is my reasoning. It's a pilot program, downtown buys into their program, and I wanted to show our community that we're in it with them, and, we're gonna be there to help them, and, we wanna see if this works as much as they do, so we're putting some teeth into the game with them.
I guess what I'm hearing you say, and feel free to correct me if I'm misunderstanding, but it sounds to me like your membership isn't supportive. And they need to be convinced to be supportive.
Yeah, no, come up. I have a member here, John Armstrong.
I can't see.
I know, he's coming. Yeah.
I didn't think I was going to talk.
If you would, John, just identify yourself.
John Armstrong, business owner in the eBird, member of the Bird, and been working with Michelle for over a year now, about a year and a half, on what we can do to get the public safety upgraded in the eBird district. Last year was horrendous in the district. We had drive-by shootings. We had gang graffiti all over the place. I have to credit the police department. This year has been dramatically better, but it brought to mind how important it is to have safety in that area that we're trying to revitalize. And what I'm going to do to help Michelle is, if we can get approval on this, I'm going to start going out and talking to business owners in the area and get them to buy in. The thing is, with Michelle, we're asking for TIF money to get this program started, but it's not going to continue on. It'll be for what, about 3 months? 3 to 6 months. And then after that, if it's successful, then we'll pick up the business owners. It'll be like a HOA type situation where we get business owners to buy in, and they'll pay to have the sundown security surveillance. So it's just, if I understand it right, Michelle we're asking that for the TIF dollars to kind of get the program off the ground.
Mayor, I'm sorry, I don't mean to belabor my point. I'm just not getting an answer. I understand what the TIF dollars will be used for. What I don't understand, and John, I agree with you, the data you put forward is true. Based on that, it seems to me like business owners would be chomping at the bit to get involved in this, and as a community, sort of shoulder these costs together. I'm not understanding why we need the tax dollars to get people to do what you have so eloquently described as urgent.
Well, we haven't gone out to the business owners yet.
Some of them.
A few, but so.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Very good. Councilmember Shaw.
Thank you. I'd like to
And
make a
Councilmember
motion.
Neese.
I'd like to make a motion for approval. I move to approve up to a maximum amount of $30,000 to be allocated from the eBird TIF funds to pilot a security program in the eBird in cooperation with private property and business owners as recommended by the Bird Board.
Second.
I heard lots of seconds down at that, and
It's his word.
arm wrestle over. Councilmember Gulick, okay. So it's made in second. Councilmember Shaw, Councilmember Gulick, do either of you want to speak to your motion?
Ed, if you want to speak to it, then I don't have to cough through it.
Okay. It is a small amount we're talking about here, 30,000. I think it's a worthy priming of the pump, $30,000. Just as a point of reference, we approved the last time or a couple of times ago, $500,000 for a specific project. So we're talking about a very small amount here. I think it's helpful for businesses, local businesses, to see that the Bird is also working with them to address this issue. So.
Very good. Councilmember Shaw, did you have anything? No? Okay. Councilmember Neese?
Thank you, Mayor. I did have some questions for Michelle, but before I do that, Michelle, you mentioned that downtown was doing their subsidies. Can we hear from Mehmet about that as far as what their subsidy is and how they operate that?
Mayor and Council, my name is Mehmet Casey, and I am with the Downtown Billings Partnership. But I can, yes, I can speak on behalf of the Business Improvement District. I have some information on that. Did you need
So just regarding the TIF, how much of the TIF do you actually fund for the police officers downtown? Because I know the bid's involved in it, but
correct, yeah. 75% of the police officers' salaries and also the vehicle are paid by the Business Improvement District. 25% is by the TIF.
By the TIF, okay.
And the way we're able to do that is because our urban renewal plan has a priority, priorities, one of which is public safety. So you're able to expend towards that cause. It's the same way why we're able to spend on SEPTED as well.
Great, thank you very much. I appreciate that. And then I had some questions for Michelle.
Go ahead.
Michelle, thanks for bringing this to you, because you're right, I did ask about the public safety down there, and so I like what I see down the downtown, and it's good that you're working towards trying to get the membership to formulate a bid so they can actually do more like what the downtown does. But when I read through the presentation and I was looked at this, I mean, I'm a pretty pro SEPTED when it comes to a lot of the government, you know, trying to see what we can do to help that other one. I'm against it and some forcing it on residents. But when it's optional, I'm wondering why I don't see more of that in this program. For instance, you know, sign up with us and get a free SEPTED by Dan at the chamber, which I just committed now because that's something like that, where we could make sure that that's kind of help incentivizing that, make sure that we're not just sending Sundance out there to patrol, but making they can actually see where things are at.
100%. I love that suggestion. 100%.
Okay, so that's something you just didn't register and, all right.
No, but all the members in the Bird know that I'm certified in SEPTED as well.
Oh, good.
So
Tag team you and Dan.
Yeah.
SEPTED, all right.
Yeah.
All right, and whoever else is out there. All right, then you also mentioned this is a 3 to 6 month program. So are we talking 30 to 60,000, or is it 30 just until it runs out?
30 for the whole program.
Okay, and so those who have the Sundance program now at their business, they're going to get kind of that base program if they've got a different program? Is that kind of how that's going to be credited to them?
Their program, they're actually going to be getting more on this program than they're getting now. How Morgan explained to me is there's someone on the program that they're getting stopped twice in their parking lot on 3 nights a week, and they're getting their doors checked. Now they'll be getting it every night that we have their service. So they're going to be getting an upgrade from their normal package, but they won't have to pay more, so.
Okay, great. Well, I fully support this, so I'm glad the motion was made to approve it, and that answers my questions. And thank you very much, and I hope that helps and works and get your membership, stirred to get more involved. So thank you.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you. Any other discussion? Councilmember Rupsis.
Thank you, Mayor. Michelle, I did ask that question about why some, you described how the preventable incidents went down, but if you looked at your percentages, the unpreventable things went up. And my hypothesis, their assumption is essentially that we've had more eyes on the street, and so more of those things were reported. But we don't know if that's true or not. So I would encourage you, as you go through this pilot program, to work with the police department and keep that data top of mind. So because they should be able to track what is being reported. So if we are getting more assaults reported because sundown is there and those things are being reported, whereas before they just kind of happened and nobody reported them, that's good to know, right? And that does increase safety. So keep that in mind and make sure as we go through this project, we have those results at the end of it.
Yes, I'm sure I'll have that data to present to you.
Very good, thank you. Michelle, I'll just put a pitch in for something I raised a couple of years ago. I support the program. It's great to have a security person moving around the neighborhood, but it's still ultimately one person that can only be in one place at one time. The Detroit Green Light program is something else that eBird might want to look at that I've seen work firsthand. It's a program where businesses literally buy a green light, and with that green light comes cameras on their property, and that camera has a direct feed to the Detroit Police Department. Those cameras are then monitored in real time for suspicious activity, not dependent upon somebody calling in. So in exchange for getting all that service, the participants pay a green light fee. And the bad guys know to avoid the places with green lights, oh, by the way. So it's very efficient because you don't have to have multiple people unless there's a reason based on the camera activity. So just something else you might want to look at, but that's for a later day that something like this could evolve into.
Yeah.
Just.
We do have our fund that we do fund security cameras and like lighting. So we could work with the people who receive that to connect a service like that and continue that. So that's something we can work in with this program as well.
Great, and it might have to be privately monitored as opposed to, through the Billings Police Department. That's not a program they currently offer, but just something to think about. Very good, Council. We'll move on to a vote if there is no further discussion on this item. So the motion is for approval of item 3, consistent with the staff recommendation, up to or the $30,000 dollar amount. If in favor of the motion for approval, please say aye.
Aye.
If opposed, nay. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you to everybody in eBird. Good luck. Item number 4. Denise, would you read item number 4?
Financial assistance for the Babcock Theater to Art House Management, LLC. Staff recommends approval.
Mayor and Council, I'm going to start things off, and I literally just have one slide. This is the third time we've had the conversation, and then I'll turn it over to Nicole with Art House. She's got some information and a handout for you. And then we're here to answer questions and go from there. So thinking back to our last couple of, or particularly our last work session conversation, just to summarize, back in 2017, when the city acquired the property, there was an RFP process, and ultimately out of that request for proposal process, Art House was selected of the 2 entities. I believe there were 2 that submitted proposals to operate the Babcock Theater. The city has a 15-year lease with the group for the Babcock. That was provided in your packet materials and in the past. But tonight, we're here primarily to talk about a tax increment financing request to help support some critical infrastructure that needs to be done in the project. Last time we were here, the sidewalk and the underground, missing the word. Vaults, thank you. We have a number of vaults throughout our downtown, very common in historic downtowns, but that project was underway, and that project was fully funded through both a grant and fundraising effort by Art House. The city did not participate in funding the sidewalk replacement or those vaults, security, that part of the project. So I did provide you in your packet material with the PowerPoint that was used for the October discussion, just as reference, not because that's going to be presented tonight, but some of that material was pertinent to tonight's conversation. Tonight's focus really is on the marquee, of which this afternoon we sent you a preliminary assessment from Cushing Terrell, estimating that the marquee could be as high as about $244,000, and that's about a year old, that assessment. So that number is included in your material at $250,000. The boiler stack, there were some photos supplied there. We think that that is an imminent issue to be dealt with and will be at a cost of roughly $30,000. And then we've got serious concerns about the projection booth is pulling away from the main building. It was an addition put on at some time over its history, and we would like to get a full assessment of what has to happen there to secure that part of the building. So in total, the request is for not to exceed $300,000 in downtown tax increment financing dollars to support the grant request. I wanted to walk through the cash flow spreadsheet. I'm going to have to open that one. I forgot to pull that. You know what, Kevin, I might need your help. Those who are watching probably couldn't see that slide. Let me. You know what? I'm not seeing. Kevin, I might need to use, Andy gave me a spreadsheet that was in the packet material, but it looks like it didn't get downloaded into the presentation folder. It was the cash flow spreadsheet. Thank you. Sorry about that.
So Chris, if I can just ask you, has there been any changes made to the downtown TIF spreadsheet that we had in our packet that has the date as of October 28, 24 that's available to the public through our packet?
No, Mayor, there aren't any changes. I just thought it was critical to walk through it briefly in that it is slightly different from, not the packet, but the last time you saw this sheet. All those numbers go. You can zoom in. Okay, I'll let Kevin zoom in there for us, and rather than jumping up and down. So this sheet we've used pretty consistently here, and I think there's some key numbers here for you. So first assumption is that the tax revenue expected in the downtown tax increment district will not grow for the foreseeable future. Why?
Sorry.
Apple's not paying any attention to what we have going on, right? That's important, and that is an estimate because, right, over just these past 6 years, we've seen the downtown TIF grow by double digits. We've seen it shrink by double digits. It's majorly impacted by centrally assessed properties, most notably the railroad, telecom. So you'll see this $2,435,229. You're going to see that consistently across the decades as an estimate of revenue, not growing. The other number here, other two numbers, go to the bottom part of that section, and that is tax revenue from Rockman project. That's the hotel project that is a part of the sale of City Hall and the construction of a hotel on the block south of us. That one has a projected new taxable revenue of $285,000 a year once it's built and on the tax rolls. The other increase is shown here as the Old Town Flats. That is the apartment building that actually is up and is getting close to occupancy. And we anticipate coming onto the tax rolls at 118 in this upcoming year. So bottom line, on the revenue side, we have a consistent flat revenue with the exception of these two new construction projects. There are three other brief changes from prior versions of this, and they are, I'll start first. There was the stone building project that was anticipated to receive roughly $660,000 over 3 years upon completion of their project. That grant was extended, the grant timeline was extended twice. It was crystal clear in that last version that if the project were not completed by the date, then that grant would be revoked, and it was, as the project was not completed in that time frame. So that expense, if you compare this to a prior version, you'll see that expense is gone. And what the other two changes are is show a presumption of if the council approves these two grant applications before you tonight. So $300,000 for Babcock Theater and $75,000 for the Billings Depot. Critical, if you'll just scroll up, Kevin, is cash flow throughout the anticipated years going forward. We continue to have a cash balance coming into the year where we don't go in the negative. We can never say that dogmatically until every year we get a new appraised value and assessed value, and we'll have to adjust accordingly. A reminder, or both these grant requests tonight, to speak to both of them, they're looking for one-time, not multi-year grant, but one-year grants. So they would do the projects if, provided the projects are completed, they have the receipts, they can show their eligible expenses, they would get reimbursed. These other projects, particularly like Old Town Flats and the hotel project, are multi-year payments. And in those contracts, it's very clear. If we do not have the revenue due to unforeseen circumstances and a change of tax revenue, then those payments get pushed out. We can't pay what we don't have, basically, is the bottom line on those agreements. So back to tonight, this particular request first for the Babcock Theater is $300,000 in addition to the work that they have been doing both in the most recent past several months, replacing the sidewalks, fixing the vault, and several other things on site. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Nicole, and then we'll be here available to answer questions for you. So, Nicole, I'll give it to you, and I can hand those out for you.
Good evening, Mayor Cole and Council. Nicole Schreiner, I'm the Operations Director for Art House Billings. I'm here representing our board and our staff. Normally you get to hear from our amazing Executive Director, Matt Blakesley, but he is taking some well-deserved time off after a very busy season we've had at Art House and Babcock alike. So I just wanted to come tonight and just share a little bit about where Art House is with our partnership with the city in regards to the Babcock Theater. We were awarded management, as Mr. Kukulski shared, 6 years ago. And we have been going strong every year. It's been an absolute pleasure and an honor to have that big, beautiful building open for the community to enjoy all forms of film and art and culture. And we hope to continue doing that for many, many years to come. And so expanding our operations in 2018 was no easy feat. It was a challenge. We did a lot of work in partnership with the city to get the Babcock where it is today, with fresh carpet, a brand new concession stand, and different things that needed to be done to reopen it to the public as a film theater. Since then, we have enjoyed not only film, but many, many events and different, both private and public events, rentals that do benefit us as a nonprofit. And we love being able to offer that space to our city in a lot of different regards. I do have a little handout to share. I don't know if yeah, they have it already. Perfect. Okay, thank you. So I just wanted to highlight a few things that makes the Babcock just so special for the community. And again, it's just such an honor for us to be able to offer this space for things like this. And I won't go through every single one of them, but I do want to just highlight a few things. Here in the next 2 weeks, we have an estimated over 2,000 people coming for 5 showings of Charlie Brown Christmas Live, where we bring in live music and pair that with the film itself. We're very excited about that. It's an annual event for us, and it's one of our greatest joys. And on top of that, you can see we've got some really great things coming, both in the form of rentals that people have booked the theater for, and for our own programming, some of which includes all the way over to the right, you'll see our Kids Movie Buffs program. And this is a free program that we offer. We do this every month during the summer, but normally every other month throughout the rest of the year. This is free for the community to come and enjoy just a really great film as a family. As you may know, our concessions are kept low for our community in cost, so that a family of 6 can come and enjoy a really great time together for really $20, if you will, based on our prices. Also, you will see that we are a consistent venue for the Billings Symphony, who has booked us out for many events through 2016. We have many events coming in and out of the theater this December. As an example, we have Anvil Corporation, Billings Clinic, Phillips 66. They have all rented our facility for their holiday parties. We've also got school engagement on a very high level. This has grown and just, gosh, so over the years, I think we've seen probably every school in the city come through for an educational reason, or they just want to offer their students something really great. And we love being able to partner, offer a really affordable price and a discount for nonprofits to share their mission as well. And I just wanted to come tonight and share with you some highlights for what we're doing at the Babcock and just how much it means to the community. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Nicole.
Yeah.
A lot of great things going on at the Babcock and Art House. Chris, anything else?
I don't have, we're here to answer your questions. Yeah, that's
Okay.
the end. As far as our presentation, I suspect we've got a few people from the public who would like to provide public comment based on your earlier.
Why don't we do that, Council, in case there, I think there was at least 1 or 2 people in the audience who wanted to be able to comment at this stage. So we'll open up for public comment consistent with the earlier conversation. If anybody would like to comment on item number 4, please come forward. Just ask that you tell us your name and address. Is there any public comment on item number 4? I'm okay. I guess there is none. So council member will move into the item, discussion of the item. Councilmember Shaw?
Thank you. I'd like to just start with a motion. I move to approve a grant from the Downtown Tax Increment Fund to Art House Management LLC in an amount up to $300,000 as recommended by staff.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Joy. Did either of you want to speak to your motion? Councilmember Shaw?
I think, you know what, I'm going to just cough through it. So I'll let Denise go ahead if you want to say, but I think we've seen this at work sessions enough that people know what's going on. I'm going to encourage council to please approve this.
Very good. Councilmember Joy?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So I was one of the people, over 400 people, in attendance of a free event hosted by the Church of the City. I'm not a member of the Church of the City, but our union, the BCEA, provided free tickets to our members to attend a holiday event. And it was amazing how much the children and people in attendance appreciated that. Of diversity of people that I don't think that you would see that same diversity of people attending event on the west end of Billings. A very good community showed up and enjoyed the film. I wish that Joni Tooley was still here so that she could tell us the history of how Billings and preserved old buildings like the Depot and the Babcock and the ABT. Those are all buildings that at one time were going to be pulled down. If they hadn't been preserved, we would not have a Babcock Theater, we wouldn't have the Billings Depot, and we would not have the ABT. Those were all buildings that were old, no longer used, that developers were going to come in and pull down. But members of our community pulled together, created a nonprofit organization to help save those buildings from being demolished. And so they are the ones who survived the demolition. There are many other buildings that we do not have in our community because they weren't saved from that demolition. a city that has no history, that has no pieces of its history reaching back, is a city that probably doesn't have a very deep root. So I'm reminded of sorry, I'm going off a little bit, but I'm reminded of a book that is written about roots in eastern Montana. The way that Montana grass survives is that it has a very deep root. And eastern Montana survives because we have very deep roots. And so I will support this. It's an important part of our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any further discussion on the motion? Councilmember Rupsis.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to support this, but I wanted to give council just a brief update on the DVP board meeting this week. As you all know, I sit as the council's ex officio member on that committee. Chris and Mehmet were there, so if I say anything incorrect, please correct the record for me. But I really just wanted to relay two things. One, there was some discussion, there was great discussion about both this and the Billings Depot, so I'll only make one comment. There was some discussion and kind of maybe a general sense that the original recommendation on the depot might have changed if members had known that the depot did pay some property taxes. No votes were taken. There wasn't a formal kind of, hand showing or anything like that, but that was a point of discussion, and that might have played into some members' feelings if that had come through with that information. The other thing that I really kind of noticed that we spent a good amount of time talking about was there's some frustration that although some council members are kind of eager, it seems like, to sell off the Babcock, we've got about a seven-figure budget or list of items that are going to have to be done in order to make that building saleable. And we haven't done enough to really talk about how are we going to get through that process and really fund that. The art house cannot do that much of a lift. The DVP board doesn't want to be the source of those funds ongoing, and certainly can't even support that as we see the financials for that TIF district. So I'd encourage us to make sure that we're part of that discussion and we're coming up with ideas that the city can be a good partner if that's really what we want to do, is to make this building, get this building back into private hands. We're going to have to do a lot of work to get there. At the next board meeting, I think we're going to have some discussion on, should the DVP push that effort? Should they push council and staff on that? Should they take the lead with coming up with ideas? So everybody's kind of a little uncertain about how to move forward. But I think we need to be part of that discussion and good partners and come up with ways to work these things into the budget so that they don't just languish. And then, at the end of this 15-year lease, we haven't really done anything to make the building a better place for whoever next manages it. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Further discussion. Councilmember Neese?
Thank you, Mayor. Chris, during our discussion this few weeks back, we talked about use fees. I think the Alberta Bear does use fees. The idea of revolving line of credit for some of this work, maybe not all of it, but some of it. And then the other thing I believe talking about, we haven't seen the financials on this organization that's asking for this money, so we have no idea how they're even financially either solvent and or fiscally responsible with the funds that they are getting in. So it makes it difficult for us to say, yeah, we want to give them some more money on this. And I guess the last thing is we're expected to do a study on this projector room, but we have no idea how much. We may find out that the liability on that's $1 million or maybe not. Maybe it's $5,000 to fix. But we're opening it up, a lot of ability to then know that we have this issue that we have to now immediately resolve. And then where's that money going to come from? So has any of these things been discussed as far as use fees? Because I see it's not just films. There's lots of events, lots of other functions that this is used for. And then the revolving loan as well.
So, Councilor Neese, Mayor and Council. So, Yeah, specifically, the question was asked, and I addressed it very briefly, but the question was asked at the last work session about using the revolving loan fund and as one of the potential tools here. And just to be clear, in both cases, and in this case, we'll stick with this case, with ultimately the overall improvements that need to be made to the building that we own and hold title to, the perspective was to loan money, then have to pay back that loan was just going to make it that much harder to pay for the other improvements that need to be done to the building. So that didn't look like a viable solution, really wasn't a viable solution to these most immediate issues. So that's addressing that first one. And I'm sorry, Councilmember Neese, the other.
So the use fees, because there's more than just films.
Yes.
They do a lot of different functions, and now we find out, you know, what their fee structure is, $20 for a family of 6. They have lots of free, or not lots, they mentioned at least one free event. Other organizations use it, nonprofits, it appears that they may be using, they're giving, you know, low use fees.
So tonight, we did not attempt to show you all that goes into what they raise, what money they've put into the building. What I tried to focus on was specifically the areas that were going to be funded by the grant. What they charge for events and how they put that money back into the building was a conversation at the work session. They could elaborate on some of that. In fairness, I wouldn't. Maybe $20 is exactly what it costs for the family of 6. I was thinking that was probably just to illustrate that it's very reasonable to get in. And we have talked about whether a fee could be added like what we've done at Dealer Park and what the Alberta Bear Theater does. And in the conversation with Art House, they are open to those conversations, and they have been. The money that goes into this is not, it does go back in. There are some complications that, as I understand it, at a very surface level, that need to be worked through, that when you show films or you do, we can't just dictate things maybe from this end. So putting our minds together as to what creative way to bring in money from every user there, Art House, they are more than willing to have those conversations going forward. Tonight, we were really focused on this grant. So, and if you'd like to hear from them as to the money they've raised over the last 3 years and put into the building, that was part of what was illustrated in the PowerPoint from October.
I would like to hear from them, and as well as some of the ideas of, you know, what they're going to do to generate additional funds for future expenses, so we don't have, you know, this in 5 or 10 years where we have to, you know, try to get some funds for some major event. I know this building was in poor shape when they got it, so I understand that. But and they have done some work, and I get that too. But I would like to hear from them as far as how they're trying to raise additional funds, what some of their major donors are doing, things like that, or if they're looking at doing naming rights on different things like the stage, just to get stuff done so that they can, you know, move this along without having to use TIF funds, which are very scarce right now.
And the last thing I would comment on, Mayor and Councilmember Neese, to your question is, whatever is the best way to maximize, if you say yes to this $300,000, as well as what donor money and other things they're collecting and other grants, whatever maximizes that as far as whether the fund, which funds stay with the city, and we're overseeing the project. John Caterino, our facilities manager, will be involved. These are public dollars in the projects that are funded with tax increment finance dollars. No matter whether it's done on the private, nonprofit side or our side, absolutely making sure every expenditure actually happened, that it is consistent with statute and your adopted policy on TIF funds. All of that will be followed relative to reimbursement or funding of improvements that would be made on our building.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion on the motion? Motion is for approval. Councilmember Boyette.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to vote for this. During my life, I've repossessed and sold everything from cars to ranches to yachts to airplanes. But one thing I always did before, I knew that I had to fix them up before I sold them, or at least look at what's wrong with it. In this case, this is a liability. We own this. If that chimney falls down, we're going to get sued. If the marquee falls down, we're going to be sued. My goal is let's fix what we can, and ultimately, I'd like to dispose of the property, seriously, even if we have to give it away, because to me, this is a money pit that's never going to quit, and we don't have the public support like Alberta Bear has to keep funding it. And what happens when we need a new roof for $1 million or $2 million? I think it's just going to continue, but we're the owner. We have to take care of our property so that we don't get sued for something that breaks. And I'd like to fix this and then move on with whatever we need to do to dispose of the property.
Okay, any further discussion? I'll just comment that this has to be seen in the context of what Art House has already done at the Art House. They have raised $3 million to develop an absolute gem in the Art House. Their financial ability is maybe better than any organization downtown right now. So they've shown an amazing capacity to raise dollars and in kind. So now that they've taken care of their $3 million investment in the Art House and have no debt on it, or virtually no debt, we want to incentivize them. We want to show them that we'll put in a little bit of skin, even if it's only 10% of what they've already done in the Art House, to try to get them interested and motivated to really go whole hog into the Babcock. And it's an amazing resource. It does already draw thousands and thousands of people downtown at the very core of our community, and that's with a spectacular marquee. So we're lucky to have them as a partner, but partners don't work just for free if they're making the only sacrifice. So I fully support this, and we'll move to a vote unless there's any other comment. Councilor Goulet.
I'll support the motion as well. At the risk of maybe mentioning SEPTED too often, I think it is helpful to see have an institution like this downtown. I was actually eating across the street on the night the Church of the City was presenting the Wizard of Oz, and just seeing how much traffic people were coming downtown, going to that. We could spend a lot of money for the equivalent of policing it, or we have the natural surveillance provided by all those people downtown going to the Babcock Theater. So having a very vital theater is really good for our downtown for all kinds of reasons.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll proceed to a vote. The motion is for approval, consistent with the staff recommendation, up to $300,000 amount. If in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. If opposed, nay. Nay. Voting in opposition were Council members Kennedy and Aspenleiter. All other Council members, I believe, in favor. Motion then passes 9-2. That concludes item number 4, brings us to item number 5. Denise, would you read item number 5?
Financial assistance for the Billings Depot to Billings Depot Incorporated. Staff recommends approval.
Been here, done this.
Kevin, can you help me make that visible to the, give me just a minute here, we'll get this visible to the 3 that are online. Sorry that I was slow to get that taken care of in the last discussion. So similar to the conversation just a moment ago, but a little bit different, similar in that this, I think, is the 3rd time that this conversation has been brought up. As I put in my memo, though, I think in this case there was at least one distinctively different part of the conversation that we didn't have during that first grant application, of which the council voted not to award the grant, and that was that the Billings Depot does pay property taxes and assessments. Now, it's a pretty complex scenario, right? The railroad actually owns the ground there along the railroad. The city owns the buildings. Some of those buildings are nonprofit and not. There aren't taxes and assessments. Others are. There's a couple of parking lots. There is a leased building that we happen to be the primary tenant in through our Public Works Engineering Department for another couple of months. And then there's some private establishments. So they do pay about $17,000 a year in property taxes. And as Councilmember Roops has said, That was also not well understood the first time the downtown partnership had the conversation. And there was, I don't want to overstate it, but there certainly were comments, as Councilmember Roops has said, that had that been better understood, there may have been support from the downtown partnership here. So here, to the numbers. To me, when this came and Michelle met with me, frankly, this was pretty simple. We have their business, their nonprofit, was awarded the historic preservation grant for $414,000. They have in total here about $530,000 in projects. They're awarded that historic preservation grant. It needs to be matched at the local level. And so their TIF grant request is for 75. When you first saw it was for 95. They have raised about 37.5 so far in donations. So we're just a couple $1,000s off on fully matching what that budget was. But in total, Billings Depot request here is for $75,000 in tax increment financing dollars to match in part that historic preservation grant and make a series of improvements to the property there of a capital nature. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Michelle, and then we're here to answer any questions the council may have. So, Michelle. Okay. And you have, well, Michelle's coming in. You have in front of you the same information, kind of data on use that was talked about back in October. So, Michelle.
Thank you. Mayor and Council, thank you again for having me. I know we've talked about this quite a few times, so I appreciate, again, your time and consideration for this application. You have all the information in your packet, so I'm not going to go into too much detail, but just to summarize, the $75,000 that I'm requesting would serve as matching funds for the grant. The grant is for our capital improvement program, campus-wide, so that allocates dollars to repair and improve our roof, repair and replace our cement walkways in the front of the campus that are deteriorating and causing leaks in a couple of our buildings. It refinishes the floor, it refinishes and secures all of the doors in the main depot building and in the original mailroom, and then it's a full restoration of the post, which is the original mailroom. Based on the calculations and the amount of taxes we pay, that return on your building in this investment would be seen within 4 years. And then given the improvements to the campus properties and the increase in value and property taxes, we can assume that that would be lowered. This sheet that you have is just a summary of the depot, how many visitors we bring to town from all around the world. And then on the inside is our achievements throughout the year, and the ones in copper are the ones that we've collaborated with other community organizations, nonprofits, city entities. So the objective of this sheet is really just to show how the Billings Depot contributes to the spirit vitality of our community and the economic growth. Can I answer any questions for you?
Not for questions. Councilor Kenny has a question. Councilor Manish, do you have a question for Michelle before we?
No, I was going to make a motion.
Okay, let's get questions out of the way. Councilmember Kennedy. And we'll come back to Councilmember Manish.
This is for Chris. Chris, we lease out the building for our engineering.
Yes.
And when is our lease up?
We're on a month-to-month at this point, I believe, so I'll let Michelle she can give you more of the detail, but I know we've been on notice and they've extended as we've worked our way through the project.
Thank you for the question. We just extended the lease to end in February of '25, and then it goes month to month after that, should you need to stay longer.
When do we plan on being out of there?
We would anticipate being out of there right on that time frame. We actually will start moving files and materials into the building here in the next 10 days to 2 weeks.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome to stay longer.
As long as you pay, not just stay.
I have one question for downtown business partners. On your letter on October 3rd, 2024, you had your board had said not to fund these. I heard from councilmen tonight. Why didn't you folks write another letter in support of this?
Mayor and Councilmember Kennedy, do you mean like a second?
Yes, sir.
We were not under the impression that we needed to. That position remains to be the.
So your position here is the position you remain?
Correct, although to both Chris's comment and Councilman Rips's comment that there was discussion at this past Friday meeting that some board members may have changed their position had they known that.
There was discussion, but you didn't proceed with anything?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. On that topic, Councilor Ripsis and Councilor Beck.
Yes, just a little bit of clarification. Mehmet, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I believe the reason we didn't take we didn't, I never vote, but the reason another vote wasn't taken is because it wasn't actually an official agenda item. And so it was just general discussion. It wasn't a noticed agenda item of which they could take a new position.
Yes, it was one of the items of staff updates, and this upcoming council agenda was brought up as the update as well, so.
Thank you very much. Back to Councilmember Dees.
Thank you. I move to approve a grant from the Downtown TIF Increment Fund to Billings Depot in the amount of $75,000 as recommended by staff.
Second by Councilmember Boyette. Did either of you want to speak to your motion?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I've been down to the depot often. I recall, and I've seen the improvements over the years, and it's done a really good job of improving. It's a great facility to rent. So if anyone's out there looking for an event center to rent, it's a great facility to rent. It's as Denise mentioned earlier today, it really has a historical value of the old depot down there. So it's just a great place to be. I haven't been down there. So I do appreciate working so hard to restore that, keep it up and running. Looks like you have a lot of different events going on there, and I appreciate you guys, looking at ways to fund money and generate revenue, not just, because you're a nonprofit, you just have to look elsewhere for funds, and then finding a grant like that to maximize these funds is great. So thank you very much. I look forward to the improvements of that and continuing to be down there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Boyette. You had the second. Anything?
At this legislative meeting we had the other night, I found a local business and got them together with Mehmet about possibly renting the space when we vacated at the depot. So we're trying to keep it going.
Keep it up. Michelle?
You might be my favorite person this evening.
But he wants a big commission, too. Very good. Any further discussion before we proceed to a vote?
Mayor?
Councilor or Chris?
Sorry. Do you want to take any public comment?
Oh, I
or-
apologize. Yeah. We offered that. So I do.
Thank you for amending that.
Yeah. So we want to have an opportunity for public comment on this item. We've got a motion on the floor. Is there any public comment? Just ask that you give us your name, address, and keep comments to 3 minutes.
Mayor, Council, my name is Stephen Heinman. I'm the owner of Stacked Montana Grill downtown. I live at 1101 Calico in the Heights, and so I get to see downtown every single day. I've been part of the depot for 10 years, and I say part as it's been integral to my business, not just helping it grow, but helping others in the community grow. I've worked with Michelle and everybody else along the way to try to bring in other folks like myself who are trying to grow their business. And it's been integral to making a lot of those businesses grow in getting them out there with these public events that we continue to build and grow on. And now we're seeing a big influx of tourism through tours. We have a Trafalgar event, and we booked a couple extra of those into the coming years, where not only are we seeing local people come, but now we are seeing people come to Billings, to the depot, and experience it from around the nation and around the world. And seeing those faces and listening to all their questions into the Billings history, I think it's vital that we keep the Billings Depot alive and make that, continue to grow and be a part of so many lives. I got married there 20 years ago this year. So it's near and dear to my heart, but it's also near and dear to me as a Billings person. So thank you for your time.
Very good. Thank you for your comments. Any other public comment?
I still have my soft voice, but I'm Mike Scher. I'm the owner and founder of Computers Unlimited. We've been on Montana Avenue for just about 40 years now, and we've worked with the depot through those 40 years. When we moved down there, we had about 10 people. We bought a building next to the Rainbow Bar because we really liked the Rex as a good, what we call it, a fern bar. We'd go there every night. So that's why we moved down there. Today, we've expanded. We employ about 180 people located in buildings directly across from the depot. And we own buildings actually from Dickey's Barbecue to Liberty and Vine, various buildings up and down the street. And working with the depot has just been a real pleasure. They're just a great outfit. Fortunately, they have nice parking lots because we need lots of parking lots. And Montana Avenue is fortunate to have the parking lots of the depot, which we lease some of those spots. And we have our own lot we share with Buffalo Block now, and we have another lot. So we've got Montana Avenue's just got great parking. So if you're ever down there to eat or have some fun, it's a great place to go. Some of the things that the depot has done, they got together and formed a Montana Avenue Association, an LLC, which of all the property owners down there become part of. And so we took that organization with the leadership of Michelle and formed our own security system using, again, Sundown Security, which we've been using for, I think, over 2 years now. And we went from lots of people on the street that we didn't like to where we have no people on the street we don't like. So it's been very, very successful. The businesses kick in about somewhere between $4,000 and $5,000 a month to have Sundown go up and down the street, check doors, check for any people that are hanging around and kick them out. Tell them I kid and say, tell them Broadway's where it's at. So we pretty much have got them all out of our area, so we've an extremely safe area. And the depot's been on top of that and has really spearheaded that entire operation. So again, I'm really representative of all the businesses from Dickey's to Liberty and Vine that participate with the depot in making Montana Avenue a great street in Billings.
Very good. Thank you, Mike. Thank you for your contributions over the years. Very substantial. Next.
So I'm Carl Deacock, live at 337 Future Circle. I'm the current president of the depot board, and then also I work at Cushing Terrell downtown. So as I think many of you know, we moved downtown a number of years ago as well, took over the old warehouse down there, saw a lot of the potential in downtown. One of the things that I guess I've learned in the time that I've gotten to spend working downtown is everything flows through the depot. Honestly, Michelle's made contacts and continues to work with all of the different businesses down there. And really the depot and everything, the depot and the board and everybody that's been a part of it is what makes downtown downtown. It has the historical value like you guys have seen and we've talked about. And the depot in general has been a great steward of the money and the trust that you guys have kind of put into Michelle and the board in and of itself. And so in this case, it was one of those, you kind of look at the financials and especially with the depot being a taxpayer, it's a $75,000 investment to increase your overall value by over $500,000. And so I think somebody said it earlier, to me, it's really easy math. So hoping that you guys will support it. Again, Michelle's doing a great job with everything that she's doing down there, and just hoping that you guys will support it.
Very good, thank you. Any other public comment on this item? Don't see any, so we'll move on. We do have a motion for approval on the floor. Councilmember Kennedy?
You know, I'm a little irritated over the fact that we received this letter from Downtown Business Partnership, and nothing has changed between then and now. And I'm glad that it was talked about at the meeting, but I figured there could be some due diligence at least to come back and support on the depot. But I would say if the, with the business owners down there on Montana Avenue and the father of Montana Avenue coming and speaking on behalf, thank you, Mike, I will change and go ahead and vote for this evening. But I was going to vote against it because I still have this letter in front of me that DBA has, or DBP has not come in support. So I have a little problem with that. So hopefully your board will get on board one of these days, and I will support this. Thank you.
Good, Councilmember Aspliner?
I'll kind of second Councilman Kennedy's concern. It's important when you guys take a position, if you're going to change your position, that you do it and you let us know officially. I'm going to be a very tepid and weak yes here, but if you're going to take a position against something like this, and we as council lean on your board for what's going on downtown, you got to be very clear about where you're at. This gray area is not good for me. So I'm going to be a tepid yes. I don't want to be a yes because of that letter, but I'm going to be a tepid yes. But I'd encourage you to make sure that your board gets it together. And if you're going to take a position, take a position. If you're going to change your position officially.
Very good, thank you. Any further discussion before we proceed to a vote? Okay, we'll vote. The motion again is for approval. Item number 5, consistent with the staff recommendation, up to $75,000 tax increment financing grant. If in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. If opposed, nay. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. That concludes item 5. Brings us to our final item, number 6. Denise, would you read item number 6?
Adoption of city's goals and objectives. Staff recommends approval.
Come on,
Back to Chris.
one step. Just 1 second here. Kevin's going to get these so that our council members online will be able to see. So literally, I think there are 3 words that have changed on this document since the last time you saw it. They are slides. I don't know if it'll let me. Here we go. Okay, so no changes here. What we're asking you tonight is to adopt our goals and objectives for 25 through 30. Just said, first up there is improved safety of Billings for all citizens, and specifically added from our work over the past several years is the specificity of our objectives. And a big thank you to Gina and her team and the chief, both chiefs, on the objectives here, some of which were also enhanced and helped by the Family Justice Center in the work that's going on there in that area. Second, no changes to what you saw before. Sustain and upgrade critical infrastructure. No changes here. Focus on the kind of core things in that area. There is a change here. This is fostering economic vibrancy through quality design neighborhoods and business districts. Not a change to the goal, but the final objective there, or second to last, we added, and was talked about, so it was not a new concept at all, but that economic development along with land use and infrastructure are part of the conversations here regarding both Skyway Drive and the bypass. We've been working with Big Sky Economic Development. They're helping us. This project will move forward. It is budgeted in this current fiscal year. It just is candidly being slowed up by the fact that the neighborhood plans, the South Billings Urban Renewal District expansion, in compliance with land use, the new growth plan, are all huge projects on our plate. But this one is also on the list and will get moving here. So the words economic development were added to this. No changes with number 4 relative to our recreation and cultural service amenities. One number. There was some words, now there's a number. So the target on the general fund reserve is to be 33% of the general fund expenditures less capital. And the reason the less capital there is you can have huge swings on the capital side. Our current policy has us at 29% is the target, so it's about 4% better than that. Ultimately, it's in many regards in Montana, it's about cash flow. We literally, because we bring in property taxes twice a year, we are borrowing from other funds in order to make cash flow work through payroll and things until taxes come in here. It's tax day here the end of the week, 30th of November. So this will take a few years to reach this goal. But ultimately, that's the change from what you saw last time. I think it said something to the effect that we wanted to increase that goal by about $400,000 a year, and now it says 33%. And that's all that I have.
Okay, very good. Questions, Councilor Asplund, Councilor Bernice?
I move to adopt the city's strategic plan for 2025 through 2030.
Second.
Okay, motion by Councilmember Asplund, second by Councilmember Bernice for approval. Did either of you want to speak to your motion? Councilmember Kennedy?
I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry, Councilor Bernice.
I did have a question. I was
Okay,
not speaking to the motion,
We'll
but I had a
recognize
question.
Councilmember. Go ahead.
So, Chris, you mentioned that tax day is just around the corner. How much are we borrowing today against our other funds?
Councilor Bernice, I can't give you a dollar amount. I mean, Andy could probably quote me one. It's manageable. Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, I don't have the number for you tonight.
So as I look through these objectives, one of the things I know we've talked about, I thought we would see more, but the only number in here is that number, which is good. At least we got a number, a target number. But it's a 5-year goal. And you did say it would take several years to get there, maybe 4 years to get there, so maybe 1% a year. At least that would be a better goal to have, say, 33% and have 1% by the end of the year. So what I'm getting at is, these are goals and objectives as we as a council kind of hold you accountable for your performance. But there's 0 numbers in here that we can actually say, did he meet the objectives or not? And so, although I seconded it because I wanted to second it, but I'm going to vote against it because I think we as a council need to be more specific. I think a lot of these ideas and goals in here are good, but I think we need to be more specific in the numbers and the years going forward. But thank you. I appreciate at least the one number, and we can at least kind of see where it's going to go over the next few years, and we'll hold you to 1% for next year, at least on your review, and see how we are. But thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Kennedy.
Chris, I'm just a little disappointed on one thing. I understand each of those areas. This is our direction for the next 5 years. We haven't talked about affordability for the people that live here. And that's, we have increased fees, and anytime property taxes went up this year, but we were capped with our levy. And so really where we're at today is we keep on raising fees. So are we going to address the escalation of fees in the future and try to offset them so they're more affordable to people? Or are we just going to keep the same direction we're going? Because a lot of people are asking the same question is, I know the cost of living, everything else, but how do we get it so it's manageable, especially for the working families in this community?
Councilmember Kennedy, Mayor and Council, I mean, it's a great question for the 12 of us, and it's something that I think all Montanans that we face here as to ultimately how to make Billings genuinely more affordable. I won't go beyond that other than to say, frankly, I think your legislative priority list and the priority of shifting the tax burden from property owners is, it's not taken, honestly, seriously enough. I think there is absolutely, it doesn't take an accountant to figure out, or an administrator to figure out that there needs to be a tax shift. We host, some numbers were given to the media recently, we're off by about 1 million. I think we're between 2.7 million, I think, is how many people come into Billings each year. So rounded down to 2.5 or rounded up to 3 million. So for our 120,000 residents, you can absolutely create a tax structure that shifts the burden away from working class and any property owner over to more of our users, whether they're coming out of state or out of the community. But there just has not been the political willingness to go there. I will tell you, there is some momentum. I can't speak to what kind of where it will get, but both out of Missoula and out of Belgrade. For a serious conversation about local option where the money goes towards reducing property taxes. And I would encourage us to join in on those conversations, even though, yes, we can come up with all kinds of needs that the community has for additional resources. I've advocated for over a decade that step one, the next step should be all about reducing property taxes with that. So that's something big. I don't unfortunately know how we make it happen because it hasn't been able to get traction. But I think other than just playing around the edges, that's something that could make a significant difference if we put our energy and time behind it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We do have a motion for approval. Further discussion on the motion. Councilmember Ripsis.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to vote against this as well. And it has to do, it's actually kind of comparable to what Councilmember Neese was saying. This plan it's got some good stuff in it, obviously, but it's full of ambiguous objectives like optimize the efficiency of the transportation system, which nobody can really take to heart and understand what they're supposed to do with that. It's got metrics in there that are couched as objectives, like code enforcement compliance rate of 90% or higher, which isn't an objective in and of itself. It's a metrics of what are we trying to accomplish. It's even got items that have already been completed. We've already updated the subdivision regulation. So I think one of the most important things that we can do is give our one employee a clear set of objectives and a set of metrics by which he's going to be measured against, his success is going to be measured against. So this document does not reach that standard. And I'm kind of disappointed that we're rushing to just get it out there. We've had one work session where we really kind of tried to talk about this, and it just seems like we're done. I think that's on us. So I'm voting against this tonight. I hope we can come back and have a lot more in-depth discussions on maybe take one of each goal, one per work session, and just work through them and talk about really what are objectives to accomplish that goal or make progress towards that goal, and what metrics would we use to hold our city administrator accountable, and then let the city administrator and staff then come up with the action items that would support reaching those metrics and accomplishing those objectives. So again, I'm a no for tonight. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Further discussion on the motion. I'll just comment. I really appreciate it. I think that's a good discussion. I'll vote in favor because I think we need to have a skeleton before we can put flesh on it. But maybe when we come back at our our spring retreat, this becomes the starting point, and we try to look at each item, try to come up with some handful of specific action items. But at least this is a start. Those are my comments. Any further comments before the vote? Councilmember Ripsis, or I'm sorry, Councilmember Gillick?
Yes, I appreciate the comments by both Councilmember Rupsis as well as the mayor. I think I will vote for it, but I think last time during the work session, I guess I did vote to kind of move it along to this meeting in part because I thought it'd be very difficult for staff to know whether or not to include any changes that we brought forward if we didn't actually have votes on it. I mean, I think ideally what happens is that it probably does need to be workshopped a bit more with some proposed changes, but yeah, ultimately it does need to come before the council with votes on any changes we do make to it. I think I do agree with the mayor that having something in the meantime is a good start, but I would like to see some numbers in here too. Thank you.
Very good. Councilmember Shaw.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask Chris a quick question. My understanding sort of is that while this is a 5-year plan, we're looking at it more the way we do the CIP, where every year or ish, we're going to come back and review it for the next 5 years. So even though we're setting this for 5 years, we're not going to look at this for 5 years. Is that staff's understanding as well?
Yeah, Mayor and Councilmember Shaw, yes. I mean, recognize it's yours, so the effort that we put in, whether it be annually or every other year, whatever it is, it's certainly something that should be regularly reported on as progress, and ultimately up to you as to how we want this to evolve from what we've done over the past 5-6 years to what we do over the next 5 years.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I definitely will support this. I think we need to have something to begin with, and then we can start talking about adding more detail to it as we move forward. So that's my take. Thanks.
Okay, very good. Thank you. We'll proceed to a vote then. The motion is for approval. Item number 6. If in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. If opposed, nay.
Nay.
Voting in opposition, I heard Councilmember Neese, Councilmember Ripsis, and was there a third voice? Okay, all other voices in favor, so motion passes 9-2. Councilmember Boyette?
Mayor, can I just make an observation about these regular agenda? This is my personal peeve, is especially item number 3, we find misspelled words in our drafts, one of which was Montana. I would encourage the staff to review all of the documents and at least use spell check going forward so we don't misspell the word Montana. Just an observation.
Very good. Thank you. That concludes our regular agenda, brings us to public comment on non-agenda items. Is there any public comment on things not on our agenda tonight? Okay, then we'll close that public comment and move on to council initiatives. We do have a council initiative from Councilmember Asperleiter. We'll turn it over to you.
So this is the first time I've brought an initiative, so Mayor, you're going to have to help me steer in the right direction. You've all had this. You've heard me talk about it. The point of this council initiative is to make sure that we're looking at our contracting, particularly as it relates to professional services. Those professional services generally are used in airport and transit and public works on an incredibly regular basis, but are used in parks and library and some of the other divisions across the city. What we're finding is that we don't use them consistently anywhere. Airport and transit and public works do it per the Montana Code Annotated, and others have deviated from what is standard in the industry. And when I say professional services, particularly the MCA calls out a specific section and directive for architects, engineers, and surveyors. So my goal with this initiative, and I'm not trying to crack this open to all of contracting across the city, although I think there's some value in us looking at that at some point in time, is to specifically look at this one because it's an easy fix. We have 2 departments in our city that do it well and follow the proper procedure, and others who don't. So let's get consistent with the way that we do this. Let's set up a standard procedure for how we're going to operate, and let's make it consistent across the city. I have had conversations about opening this up to other contracting and purchasing, and I think that's a valid thing to look at, but I don't want to go there immediately because I don't want to bog everything down right out the chutes. Let's take this in steps and let's make progress and show some successes, and we will work our way down that line, but let's not get distracted with everything all at the same time. So my goal is to take this one on. This should not be terribly complicated. I can't imagine that this is going to take more than one work session for us because we already have pretty defined standards in place. And then let's move forward with some action. I believe that staff is already talking about this and having some conversations, but let's take this one bite at a time and make sure that we're doing things consistently across the city.
Thank you, Councilor Abschlager. If you would like to make a motion, would you? And if you would you read it from your document, unless you wanted to make a change from that, but it was so brilliantly drafted. We don't want to depart if we don't have to from that.
So I'll move to complete a comprehensive review of contracting processes for all departments as it relates to professional services as defined by MCA 18.8.204, with staff presenting recommendations to create consistency across city government.
Second.
Good. I heard a second from Councilmember Kennedy going into it. So motion made and seconded. Any discussion before a vote? Councilmember Joy? Or you've already addressed it, so you're good. Councilmember Joy?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I think this is a question for the city attorney. City Attorney Dole, was there, in particular, I'm referring to, and I think Councilmember Aspenleiter's initiative really kind of mentions this. If a TIF board like Sabura, my first question is, did the city of Billings and the Parks Department or any city entity make an agreement to have donated architectural services provided in the South Billings Rec Center? Was there any agreement?
I don't have that information, so I'm going to have to let Chris address that.
Yeah, I think you're talking about the discussion with Collaborative Design. Can you make it directly connect to the
Yes.
initiative?
Okay, thank you. I thought that the Parks Department was called out in the initiative language for having not followed that. So I was a little bit concerned. I guess maybe my question is for Councilmember Aspenleiter. Is this initiative concerned with what testimony we received here at council a couple of weeks ago in regards to the Parks Department and that particular incident? Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, Councilwoman Joy, yes, specifically it was. And all transparency, we were a part of that process, not on the selected team. The process that was followed from my perspective and what I've seen in my 20-year professional career did not follow the Montana Code Annotated. City staff has a different perspective of that. My attorney has a different perspective than city staff, and so does Collaborative's attorney. My point with this is nobody's objecting to that contract whenever it comes. I thought it was going to come tonight. Nobody's objecting to that contract. Everybody's moving forward under the guise that, hey, we need to get consistent with our process. This could have turned into a litigative matter, and liability was there. Who wins in that? Our attorneys will tell you one thing as the city. The other parties' attorneys would tell you something different. But the fact is, a judge would decide that, and we have legal liability associated with how we ran that process. Because we don't run it the same across the city, and we don't follow the same process that the professionals run out of Public Works and Airport, we have inconsistencies, and that opens us up to liability.
Follow-up, Mayor.
Okay.
City Attorney Dole, does the Sabura Board or the eBird or any of our TIF boards, can they make agreements outside of the city approving those agreements for a donation? Regardless, I mean, I'm not going to, this particular incident, but just in general, can our TIF boards make agreements for donations outside of city council approval or city staff approval? Thank you.
Councilmember Joy, I would like to look at the MOUs. Those TIF agencies they're advisory boards to councils, but they are actually separate entities. So they have the ability to enter into contracts, of course, but if you're talking about, well, you're not talking about TIF funds. If you were talking about TIF funds, certainly that they don't have the authority to do that, but they're a separate entity, so they would have the power to enter into a contract separate to if they're soliciting donations or for whatever reason.
Thank you.
Okay, further discussion of, again, the initiative that is before you. Is there further discussion? Councilmember Neese and Councilmember Ripsis?
Thank you, Mayor. Scott, I appreciate you bringing this forward. I will support this. I agree we could get tied up into a lot of different policies and stuff, so I appreciate your kind of direction to keep it single focused, because the first thing I want to do is add sole source, but I understand that could be down the road. And so I think this is great because it does open up liability when we have ambiguity between two different departments and in a contract and what we're doing as a city, because people are going to look to us for consistency, and if we're doing it one way in one department, another way in another department, that could open us up to some kind of liability. And so I do think that's appropriate. And the other thing is and I believe a lot of these policies we establish within the city, the TIF TIF districts have to follow some of those things as well. Whether this one is or not, I don't know, but I think it's something that we need to make sure that, we're doing it right. And so we're setting an example for all of the organizations that answer up to us. So I appreciate that. I look forward to having some good discussions about this. I know you said it's going to be one meeting. You're an expert at it. Ed, you probably been around it. So for us who are not as expert in this, please help us kind of lower that, to kind of dumb it down for us. Mary, you've probably seen a bunch of this too. So just kind of help keep it a little more simple for us. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Councilor Ripsis, Councilor Kennedy?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to support this initiative. I think it is fair and reasonable to ask staff to review our policies and procedures for procurement of all kinds, and I appreciate the desire to keep this particular initiative focused. I question a little bit the timing of when this particular initiative is being raised. I don't question his good faith in bringing it forward in any way, but I think the optics could certainly be better. I did ask Councilmember Aspenleiter about this particular project that is kind of spurred this initiative and how it didn't comply with the legal requirements. He gave me a long, lengthy reply, which I certainly appreciate his perspective. It's primarily revolved around two things. One was the use of pricing as selection criteria, which is not typically done, as he mentioned, through Public Works and Airport and those types of things. The other was an inconsistency in communication between the RFP that was published by the city, not by the TIF district. This was a city RFP, and how staff communicated with one of the applicants that was submitting a bid. Under those two areas, I don't believe the pricing question is really a concern or legitimate. The MCA 188204 that Councilmember Aspenlader referenced, it does not forbid the use of pricing as a selection criteria. Even though that might not be the standard practice, it doesn't specifically forbid it. And it's hard to imagine that the legislature would have, intended to specifically forbid it without including those few words in the code. I also don't believe it's inappropriate for different departments to have some different processes here. Our enterprise-funded departments have a lot more latitude in budgeting and their capital budgets than our general fund departments do. So I don't think it would even really be fair to say our general fund departments should not in any way consider price. That's something that we should probably be able to do, and I suspect it's probably the reason why it wasn't specifically included in the Montana Code. But there is this issue of inconsistency of communication between what the RFP said and apparently what was communicated to the applicant. So, I've been involved in a number of these kind of RFP selection processes in parks, public works, elsewhere over the years on the city side, and not a single one of them, to this day, not a single one of them has absolutely 100% strictly complied with, the written RFP. We're human, inconsistencies happen, and until we're ready to kind of sign everything over to our, AI bot overlords someday, and let them do the selection, it's going to happen. So I think it's valuable to make sure that we do root out and at least kind of address inconsistencies as much as we can, so that we can eliminate them where it's appropriate. Again, I am going to support this initiative, but I would urge staff not to unduly handcuff ourselves. We are a self-governing entity. Unless the state code specifically says no to something, we should retain that flexibility to govern according to our local needs. So, Councilmember Aspenlader, I appreciate you bringing this forward. I will vote in support of the initiative tonight.
Very good. Councilmember Kennedy?
I am going to vote in favor of this, and I really do think you need some consistency across the board in the city. But the question I have is, Chris, when can we have this on a work session?
Well, I'm typing the email to the team that's going to be working on this, asking for a timeline. So, and
We could do January, February? Is that what we're looking at?
yeah, I think we're looking at months here. I mean, if it weren't for Christmas and Thanksgiving and New Year's, I think we would be, 30 to 60 days, but I'm targeting to be here sooner rather than later. My anxiousness is just looking at what's coming up for future agendas and where this fits. I don't, as Councilmember Aspenlader said, and actually we've already started some of this internal work over the last several weeks, and specifically keeping this piece narrowed to the architects, engineers, and land surveyor part of the statute, and our policy greatly narrows it to keep us on, I think, a short timeline. So, yes, I believe I'm not overcommitting to say not later than February, and hopefully even possibly January. The first work session, I think, is the first Monday in January, so I don't believe, it won't happen then, but it will be late January or into February.
Okay, and just one last comment. If we are a competitive entity and everybody knows what the ground rules are, you get more competitive bids. If people feel that it's already a done deal, they're not going to go ahead and submit in the bidding process. And we've seen that in local governments across the state. So I think this is good that we're reviewing. I think it's good that we go forward and we make sure that those folks that are bidding on city projects know that it's a competitive process and everybody's treated fairly. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Anybody else? We'll go back to Councilmember Joy. I don't see anything else. Councilmember Joy?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I will support the motion. I think that one of the areas that we have over the years had issues, or I'm not going to say issues, where we've come into seeing conflict is with our urban renewal agencies as they conduct their business. It isn't the first time. It's been ugly and it's been hard, and they're very often, I know that Director Friday works hard to get our urban renewal agencies, if that's the correct term, to do a better job, to get them more consistent, to formalize their processes. But then again, something comes up, boils up to the surface to council that's been coming out of one of our urban renewal districts. So I absolutely do think we need to look at consistency, but we have to have our advisory boards really do their job well. And they need to formalize their processes so that we don't have gray areas where things operate in gray areas. And I know this initiative is much bigger than that, but as it has happened over the years, that's where I see some of these problems really coming from. So I think it's something we need to address. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, council, we'll move to a vote if there's no other comments, and I don't see any. So again, the motion is for approval of the initiative. You got the exact language, was distributed to you earlier. If in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. If opposed, say nay. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. That concludes our council initiatives. And with that, I hope everybody has a excellent Thanksgiving.